Welcome and thank you for listening to the Sales Maven Show. I'm your host, Nikki Rausch, your own personal sales maven. I'm here to offer you tips and strategies and techniques to master your sales conversation. Today, we're going to be talking about something that, warning here, could be triggering. The intent is not to trigger you, the intent is to get you challenging yourself, should you choose to do so, right? Like, should you choose to accept the challenge, to challenge yourself, to get yourself into a more resilient place so that you can continue to thrive in your business. So, the concept today is taking a look at ego thinking versus strategic thinking. And if you've ever found yourself in a situation where you are reacting emotionally on a sales call, and or maybe you're holding yourself back from taking some action, putting an offer out there, saying something, offering a piece of advice to a client, that holding back kind of thing. Or maybe you have been in a situation where you've been personally offended in a sales conversation, and that can cause things to really go off the rails. So, all of these things are opportunities for you to look at this and go, is this my ego? And how can I shift from being in ego thinking to being in a more strategic thinking so that I'm more effective, so that I'm more confident? So let's talk about the difference, first and foremost, between ego thinking and strategic thinking. So, ego thinking is reactive. It's usually that mode where you feel like, I need to protect myself here. And you probably know what that feels like. I certainly do, right? Like there are times where I want to protect and I want to react. And I find that often that is not in the best interest of your business. It's not usually in the best interest of the client relationship. So all these things can suffer. Now, strategic thinking is more proactive. This is you solving problems. This is you creating opportunities. And this is you being of service. I think most of us in our businesses got into them with this idea of really wanting to serve, to be of service. So ego says to you, they're rejecting me or they don't value me. Where when you can shift from being out of that kind of a mindset, those types of comments, those types of negative self talk, and move to more strategic self talk, which is, oh, this is curious or this is interesting. Let's find out more. I find that when I can shift myself and when I can help clients shift into that, this is where resiliency comes in. This is where you're able to really propel yourself and your business forward. And maybe the idea is to bless and release the person that you're talking to, and there's some confidence and freedom in that. Or maybe it's to get really curious. And by getting curious, you're able to find solutions. So let's talk about some real life scenarios. I have five in mind. Honestly, there's more, but these five tend to come up often. Again, in my own business and also with many of my clients' businesses. So as I share these, if you think I'm speaking directly to you, I may be. I'm not speaking about you though. I will say that because these are common. This is why I picked these five. They are very common. So even if you're like, oh, that was me the other day on a coaching call with Nikki, it was probably you and five other people this month, right? So that's how common these are. All right. So here's one that often can derail a sales conversation, and it's planning to pitch too soon into a potential sales call. And how this usually shows up is before you go into the call with somebody, before even having a first conversation, maybe they scheduled a call with you, or maybe you reached out, you did some business development, and they agreed to get on a call with you. And you've already done enough research that you know all the departments in the organization if you're selling to a corporation. You know who the leaders are and who should be on the call with you. And you even want to suggest that they bring those people to the call because those are the decision makers. And you also already know all the different offers that they should be buying from you before you've even gone into that meeting, before you've even asked them a question. This is usually ego. And I kind of equate this type of scenario into you're making so many assumptions without having had a conversation, without having asked any questions about their needs, about their wants, about what they're looking to solve. So there's nothing wrong with doing a little planning before you get onto a call with somebody, but over planning and over strategizing by making a ton of assumptions. Now, assumptions are really common. I always say the two most common things that people do in a sales conversation is one, they project their limiting beliefs onto the other person. This often is a form of assumption. And then the second thing they do is they act as if they're psychic. They can read that person's mind. They know what they're thinking, they know what they're going to say. And I always say, unless you have psychic as your title as to what the service is that you offer, this is not a good thing for you. It's it's assumptive thinking. It's ego getting in the way. You're making way too many assumptions. And why this derails sales calls is because you show up with all this stuff already planned in your head and you talk as if it's a done deal, and you can really throw people off. You can sometimes come off, the person who does this can sometimes come off a little bit like, I know what's best, a little bit condescending or a little bit dismissive in these sales calls. And of course, that's not the intent of it, but that's how it comes across to the person who's like, we're just starting our relationship. We're just starting the conversation, and you're already making all of these assumptions. So, the thing that you want to think about is how can you be curious? And that means asking questions. I mean, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to ask questions in your discovery calls and have those questions like ready to go. That's the kind of prep I think people should be doing, is having your questions and knowing what question to ask based on the last answer they gave to the last question you asked. Like, this allows you to be more strategic. This allows you to work towards your outcome. Like, what is it that you are trying to attain here? What's the outcome? Not just for you, but for the client too. That's super important. So when you can show up with having prepared, but not over preparing, not showing up and talking as if things are already a done deal, that assumptive close can sometimes really throw you off. Now, I want to clarify here. There are times to use an assumptive close, but not in that first conversation, acting as if you've already earned the business and you know what the next business is they're going to give to you. I remember a few years back doing a strategy session with a client who I adore. This client is so brilliant and so just exceptional at what the client does and the service that this client offers. I mean, just really exceptional. And there was a big opportunity that got thrown into this person's lap with what would be for my client, a very high profile client. And she hired me to do a strategy session. And on the strategy session, she came to it already having this like really complete outline of, again, all the departments within this organization and all the people that she wanted to tell the person who set up the original meeting with her to invite to the meeting. And I was like, whoa, 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 slow your roll. Like, no. And she's like, and I don't want to just sell to this department. I want to sell to like 7 other departments within this organization. And I was like, but do those other 7, do they even know who you are? Or do they even know that you're having this conversation with this one department? Like, let's focus on earning the business of the one department before we try to like already start selling them into things they're not asking for. It was such a good example. I wish I could like break it down. It's been years, but I wish I could break it down in all these different things that my client did ahead of time. And it really was off-putting to the client that she, or what would be her client that got on a call with. Now we were able to salvage some things. Like, it's not like if you make a misstep sometimes that you can't fix it. You can, and we did. But better to not make that misstep when you're starting in the relationship. Better to not show up from this assumptive place and just show up from a curious place and see the difference. Okay, the second thing that I want to talk about is taking offense when somebody brings up an objection. Now, sometimes people always equate like an objection to rejection, and I don't see them as the same thing, especially in sales, because an objection is a potential buying signal. It is an opportunity to earn the person's business. But a lot of times people are equating this like objection to rejection. It's they're saying they don't trust me or they're being difficult, they don't understand the value that I'm bringing. That is that ego talking. Now, how do you move it from ego to strategic? And in this case, I always think like, be curious, be interested, lean in, ask questions. And also, when somebody voices an objection is a potential buying signal. Now, if you haven't heard me talk about buying signals 8 million times, buying signals are verbal and nonverbal cues that people give. And sometimes an objection is a potential buying signal. They need for you to explain how you can solve this for them, because until that can be solved, their brain cannot get on board with purchasing. So I don't mind an objection. I don't take it as rejection, that's for sure. It's just an objection, it's just information. And my job is to be curious and interested and check it out and see what it means. So, one of the things you might do here is ask the person if they're bringing up an objection, like, is that your main concern? Or is there something else that we should talk through? Because sometimes people just throw out random things, right? They've got thoughts, they say them out loud. The client may not even realize that they just voiced an objection, but until you acknowledge it and check to see, is this something they really want to discuss? And sometimes the answer will be like, oh, no, that's not really even an issue. I'm more interested in X, Y, and Z. But we need them to voice that objection so that we can check in with the objection so that we can then continue the forward momentum. So this is really important. Don't get thrown off just because somebody voices an objection. Okay. Now, here's the next one. This is the third one, is when clients don't take action. Oh my gosh, as a coach, ego can rear its really ugly head here. And I coach my clients who are coaching their clients on this very topic. I just did it this week actually with somebody. And the approach was, ego is saying, this person is not taking action on the things that they're paying me to advise them on. So therefore, they're not serious, or they don't respect me, or they're wasting my time. That's ego. And I know as a coach, like, we want our clients to take action, and we know when our clients take action on the things that we're advising that they're going to get results. But also as a coach, this is my opinion now. I'm going to speak from this place of opinion, is that my job is to serve the client as best I can. Now, often I see that showing up in thinking about how their clients, how their buyers are going to react to the way they're coming across. And so I will coach from that perspective. But I don't coach from the place of like, hey, if you're not going to take action on the things that I'm advising, then we don't work together. No, instead, this is another place for strategic thinking where you want to get interested. You want to find out what is causing them to not take action, what's getting in the way, and what can I do to support them in getting the solution that they say they want. So this is a really good opportunity for you to ask a question here. So for instance, if you notice that somebody is not implementing, they're not taking action, instead of feeling like you need to give them a talking to and a what for, get curious and ask questions. Ask, what's stopping you, or what's getting in your way of taking action on this? Or what would make this easy for you? Or what would make it easier for you to implement? That's another question you could ask. Or what part of this is doable for you? like whatever advice that you're giving. Ask these types of questions because this can sometimes get your client out of this like stuck type of, like the fight, flight, or freeze. Like maybe they're in freeze mode, they feel overwhelmed, they can't take action. But if you can ask these questions and now they can start to see that it's not all or nothing. It's not like I either do it or I don't. It's like there can be incremental improvements here. There can be incremental implementation and you can support them through that. And sometimes that's what they really need, I think, from a coach. So, if you know me, I'm not I'm not the hard coach. I'm never going to be the person that is pushing, shaming, bullying, uh, really trying to say like it's my agenda, it's my way or the highway. That's just not my style, which is sometimes doesn't resonate with certain people. They want a coach that's going to be like the butt kick coach. I'm the coach who's going to cheer, and I'm the coach who's going to be really curious and finding out like what is getting in your way and is there anything that we can do to overcome it. So, all right. Here's the fourth one, handling discount requests. Now, oh my gosh, ego can rear its ugly head here too. People often get insulted when somebody asks them to discount it. And as a salesperson, I always go like, "Oh no, this is a huge buying signal." And it's not about your worth necessarily. Like maybe it is, right? Like maybe they're like, "Oh, I just don't think you're worth that kind of money." Well, again, you can bless and release those people that don't get it. But just because somebody's asking for a discount, don't let your ego keep you from earning that business. So, instead of shutting down, get interested and think maybe they need help justifying the spend on this, or maybe they need some options. So when somebody asks me for a discount and the answer is no, sometimes the answer is yes. It depends on what they're asking for. But, and actually, I think, gosh, maybe I've trained my clients well because they know if something doesn't work for them, they'll ask me to change it. And most of the time, I can and I will because that makes sense for them. And that's a win for them as long as I'm getting something in return, which is earning additional business, right? But there are times where sometimes someone will ask me for a discount and the answer is going to be no, like I'm not going to discount that. But I would still get interested. And I would ask, if I was able to offer a payment plan, would that make it more feasible for you? And I cannot tell you, I probably have said this on the podcast quite a few times. So if you've listened to a few episodes, you probably have heard me say this once or twice before. But oftentimes people will ask for a discount or they'll voice an objection around money, and I'll offer them a payment plan. And that is enough wiggle room for them to then just pay in full. So just because somebody asks for a discount doesn't mean that it's like they don't get it. They don't see your worth and you should be offended. Again, ego. Strategic thinking is can I can I still earn their business, or what needs to happen in order for them to understand the value of what's being offered here. So again, get curious. Let's explore how we might work together based on what your budget is. Maybe it's a downsell offer. Maybe it's a totally different solution. Or maybe they are going to figure out how to pony up the money because they understand the value just from you showing some flexibility to like work it through with them. So I always think about it as it's a little bit of like a puzzle to solve. And I'm willing to stay in it with them as long as they're willing to stay in it with me. I'll look for ways to solve the puzzle. Okay. Here's the last one, and then we're going to bring this episode to a close. This is a big one. Trigger warning for some of you listening right now. Fear of sending out offers. Oh my gosh. I get this pushback so much from clients when we're working like, okay, when's the last time you sent out an offer to your list? When's the last time you sent an email out to your list, right? They're like, Nikki, gosh, I can't because they're going to unsubscribe or they're going to judge me. They're going to think, oh, she's desperate for a sale. It's like, okay, that's ego. Strategic thinking is saying to yourself, people can't or won't buy from me until they know what I have to offer. So it's my job to put the offer in front of them. And you can even use language in your offer and say, here is something that was created with you in mind. Doesn't that feel nice? Here is something that was created with you in mind. Doesn't mean they'll buy it. But again, I always say, like, I've been in sales for, I always say 25 plus years because it's been so many now. And I just keep getting older. So I have asked and invited a lot of people to work with me. And yes, I have sent emails out and people have unsubscribed. And I think over the years, I might have had a person or two be like, you send too many emails or you make too many offers, Nikki. So I'm unsubscribing. Okay. But I've never had anybody clutch their pearls and be like, how dare you make an offer to me? And honestly, maybe I have now that I think about it. I do think about one person who sent me a really scathing email one time about making an offer. That person just went into my like I unsubscribed them myself. Like I do have a jerk list. Uh in some people get on it, which means they don't ever get offers from me. They can stay on my email list if they're not overly offensive, but if they're overly offensive, I just unsubscribe them myself if they don't unsubscribe themselves, if they're rude, right? But like the clutch the pearls and be like, oh, how dare you make an offer to me? That is just, wow, that's ego. So don't be afraid of that. And that's their ego talking, by the way. If they're like, how dare you make an offer? It's like, okay, but this is a business. Like, I'm not here just doing this because, I'm getting government funding. Like, no, I have bills to pay. I have a family to support. Like, you do too. And there's nothing wrong with charging for your services. What is wrong is being annoyed that nobody's buying from you when you haven't made any offers. Like, it's your job to earn the business. Therefore, you have to be able to put it out there. So stop holding yourself back. Stop worrying about the unsubscribes. I do not send emails for the people who are like, oh, I'm going to unsubscribe. Nikki sells to me too often. I send emails for the person and I get these messages that are like, thank goodness, Nikki, I needed this right now. Thank goodness you sent this because I needed this and this made a difference. That's who I send my offers for. It's the person who's going to be impacted in a positive way. Person who's offended by it, okay. As my clients know, these are my thoughts of like, okay, go kick rocks. All right, be offended, whatever. It's not for you. That's okay. I'm not offended that you don't want my offer. So you shouldn't be offended that I put it in front of you. You subscribed to my email list. I didn't subscribe you. You subscribed. Like it's all volunteer. Like you volunteered to be on the list. And if you don't want to be on the list, it's super easy to hit the unsubscribe list. That's okay. And I don't get offended when people unsubscribe. I go, okay, my stuff is not for them. And sometimes it's just not for them right now. That's okay too. But if you are holding yourself back from making offers, if people don't know how to buy from you and you're wondering why nobody's buying, get out of ego, get into strategic. Okay. So the shift. How do you catch yourself? How do you like what are the triggers to know I'm in ego and I'm not in strategic thinking? So when you're feeling defensive, when you're offended, and when you're holding yourself back from doing something. I think I've shared this story maybe too as well of for a period of time, especially when I was first starting out, because I was mostly selling locally, kind of in the Seattle area where I was living at the time. I was attending a lot of networking meetings. I was speaking at a lot of events. So most of my clients were in the kind of Seattle area and Pacific Northwest. So I was having clients when I was asking them about like activities they were doing to build their business. I was having clients consistently say to me, oh, I don't share about that. Especially on social media. I would never post my offer on social media. And I would be like, okay, dig into that because I'm curious, right? Like I'm going to ask questions. I'm not going to belittle or berate. I'm just going to say, like, tell me more about that. And they would mention one name. There was somebody who was a pretty high profile, like was involved in a lot of networking events, um, really specialized in like her expertise and was pretty vocal about it. And it sometimes could come off a little bit like maybe shaming. And so they would say, well, I won't post on social media about my business because so and so might see it and will shame me for it. And I was like, hold on. And I was hearing this name. And after, my thing is like, I love things in fives. So after I heard the same name 5 times from 5 different clients, I was like, oh, this is, this is a real problem. So again, it's not my job to shame the person who was maybe unintentionally shaming these other people. So what I would do instead is I would say, why don't you just unfriend this person so that you can then post? Like if you're not putting yourself out there because you're afraid of one person's reaction, then remove that person from your email list and remove that person from seeing your social media posts. Like there's your solution. And then what can you do then? Now, some people would do it. My clients, they'd be like, that's a great idea. I'll take action on it. And some are like, oh no, I don't want her to know that. It's like, okay. So you're making all your business decisions based on one person's opinion about you, who, by the way, isn't a client and has no intention on ever buying what it is that you sell. But you're going to make your decision based on this one person's opinion. Like, okay, that's your choice, right? But and I'm sharing this story with you because I want you to ask yourself, who is getting in the way of you being strategic in your thinking and putting yourself out there? So when you find yourself again defensive, offended, or pulling back, how can you shift? Ask yourself, what is the strategic choice here? Or what would serve the relationship here? Or third, what is my ultimate outcome? And what do I need to do to hit that outcome, to meet that outcome? What needs to happen? And sometimes that's a mindset shift for you. Okay. So I also want to say here as we wrap up that if you find yourself feeling any of these things, offended, um, defensive, or holding back, I'm not asking you to deny your feelings. Like your feelings are your feelings. You're perfect the way you are. And is it something that you are willing to shift? Can you lead with purpose? Can you choose connection over protection? Can you choose to be of service over yourself, right? Ego is self. Can you make those choices? And if so, okay, great. Now we can shift our sales conversations. Now we can reach out. Now we can be more confident and we can be more strategic in our thinking because ego really is about protecting your pride and strategic thinking is about growing your business. So what is the goal? What's your outcome? I'm hoping it's about growing your business. That's what I'm cheering you on for. All right. Thank you as always for listening. Thank you for being here. I hope something that was shared today will inspire you to take some action. And if you want to share it with me, I would love to hear. And if there's something holding you back and you want to share that with me, I would like to hear that as well. You're welcome to reach out. And if you think somebody would benefit from hearing this episode, not in a shaming way, by the way, but if you think they would find some value in it, please share the episode. I appreciate you. I'm wishing you continued success. Take care and have a great rest of your day.